Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to, unfortunately, the final session of our KCWS conference. Um, it's been a wonderful, wonderful uh, example of being able to bring so many people together, and yet we're not there together. It's such a shame because it's been amazing, though, really great. Lots of great thoughts, lots of different thoughts. This morning, I tried to do one of my usual diagrams. I'll just hold it up if anyone can see it. It's a bit of a mess. I unfortunately didn't have time to make it pretty, so I'm not showing it. I'm not showing it formally. But we've been in reality where we are now. Here we are now. We've swung from pessimism to optimism in relation to where we go. We've seen knowledge become central to so many of our aspects. And the Knowledge Cities World Summit is a key bringing together of not always like minded thinkers, but a lot of like minded thinkers, but also people who challenge our current thinking. And that is wonderful. So this afternoon, we are really pleased to have three key uh, panelists who are going to do two things. First of all, we're going to look at their experience of the KCWS and a contribution of what you think the legacy is. And then secondly, we'll look forward. And the three panelists probably need not a lot of introduction if you've been attending, or well, Jamili has not. So we have here Javier Carrillo, who, of course, is the founder of many of these things. And we have Anna Cristina Facinelli, who has been the current host, but we also welcome Jamili Sabini Marquez, who was our most gracious host in 2019, I think, Jamili, in Florianopolis, also in Brazil. What a fabulous panel. So I'm not going to take any longer, but I want to start up by asking each of the panelists, starting with Javier, to just reflect on 14 events of KCWS and what you see as the origins and the legacy coming from those events. Javier, can I pass over to you?
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Anna and Jamila. Delighted to share this session with you. And I think that this session clearly indicates the spirit of KCWS insofar it's so familiar, so friendly, so relaxed, and at the same time so engaged into learning and action. I will very briefly provide a historical overview as to how Maxi started and evolved across the years. Uh, 14 years ago, this was in 2007, was the first meeting. This was in Monterrey, in Mexico. On occasion, we were already there was already, and I would really like to. That's a very important aspect of KCWS. KCWS is a socialization space for the KBD global community. So it's the space where we meet once a year, face to face or virtually. But it's the event that reinforces our activity throughout the rest of the year. So there was already a KBT community since in the early years of the new millennium, 2000, 2001. We started gathering in several arenas. And by 2005, about there, we already had substantial ground cover in terms of publications, projects, collaborations, and so forth. So when the state of Nuevo León in Mexico and the city of Monterrey in particular established a formal program to become a knowledge city. backed by a proper law and institutions, it was like a perfect ground to launch an initiative to converge in an annual conference. So, on occasion as well of the um, International Forum of Cultures in 2007, part of which was the Global Knowledge Based Development Week, a whole week of events all around knowledge based development and knowledge cities. So we started there in 2007. And at the beginning, we were thinking of doing it biannually because it took us 3 years to prepare the first one. So we thought that perhaps every 2 years would be fine. So by the time we met in Monterrey, we had already agreed to go carry on in Shenzhen in China with all the muscle and institutional support and the resources to make a grandiose meeting there in 2009. Wonderful meeting in Shenzhen, which was followed since by then we realized that there was enough attention to make it annually, not biannual. So when we met in Shenzhen, we knew that we would continue. By the way, there was a bidding process, a formal bidding process by which city candidates would bid for the opportunity to host the conference. So by the time we met in Shenzhen, we knew that the next stop would be in Melbourne, which proved to be a most wonderful conference because of the level of institutional engagement by private and public sectors. Next year, we were originally aiming to Israel, but there were several political and institutional issues that were proved unsurmountable. And in the end, Bento Gonzalez so graciously, with a lot of courage and really in a short, very brief time, improvised a most wonderful, a very warm, a lot of people attending conference in Bento Gonzalez in 2011. Next year, then, we moved to Matera in Italy, where one of our sister organizations hosted us a joint conference, and it was also a very lively and intense annual meeting. Next year was in 2013 in Istanbul. Istanbul proved to be the adequate geographical spot of the convergence of two worlds, East and West, because it was very international, very most cosmopolitan meeting in Istanbul. Again, very much thanks to throughout these years our director of the conference, Tanjit Kanlar, who was made a wonderful contribution. Next year was kind of the opposite in the sense of it was very cozy, very familiar, because Tallinn is not only this beautiful city that looks like a doll's place, very so cozy. Well, the conference was very much alive because it was small groups with very intense knowledge exchanges, lot of dialogue, a lot of collaboration, wonderful meeting. And then we moved again to a very big institutional, with a collaborative between public and private sector meeting in Daegu in Korea. There was also very lively, very intense, and most fruitful conference. And again, it was like oscillating, moving from the very high tech, very efficient settings in Korea. Then we moved to Vienna, and Gunther Koch, of course, and a lot of colleagues over there made this very rich and warm conference as well. And in 2017, we went back to South America, to Arequipa in Peru. That was like a party. It was a very family-like. It was very warm and very fruitful. very, very fruitful. And again, because I think we are capitalizing on our relational capital, which is very, very rich and affectionate. And then we moved to another Latin location, but in Europe, which was in Tenerife. Thanks again to Rodrigo, whom we sent our very warm regards, and to Gunther, of course, who made this possible, this very rich meeting in 2018 in the Canary Islands. And then we came back again to South America in 2019, and Jamile will tell us more about that, to Florianopolis, where we had again a very, very, very rich and fruitful meeting. And last year, we were suddenly faced, we were aiming at having a face-to-face meeting, but COVID-19 pandemic got in the way, so we had to improvise. And thanks a lot to Dr. Blanca Garcia, always an angel behind all of our efforts, and she managed to arrange a virtual conference based on her institution, the Colegio de la Frontera Norte. And finally, this year, here we are, thanks again to UCS, Universidad de Caxias do Sul, providing all of the technical support to make this virtual meeting that even if we are not face-to-face, it still feels as warm and as productive as all of the others. So this was a quick tour throughout the history of our conference, and we look forward to what's the best should be coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Javier. What a marvelous world tour. I'm very proud to say that I was there in 2007. I missed an awful lot in the middle somewhere when I changed my role from moving from Manchester to doing other things. But it's been a fabulous journey to be part of. And Jamile, I have a warm remembrance of Florianopolis. This was our last previous face-to-face meeting. And Jamile, I haven't really introduced, just say a word about where you are and what you do, and then tell us your views on the legacy and the experience of hosting KCWS there in Florianopolis in 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Cass. And thank you, Javier and Ana Cristina, for the invitation to be here today. My pleasure to be here. Yes, the event in 2019, I think we had lucky because like we did our event with more than 500 people in November 2019. And like 4 months later, everything starts to close. So we are so lucky to have the opportunity to do our event like presential. And our just to say to everyone, Florianopolis is an island in Santa Catarina state, Brazil. So we did with FEComércio. I am the president of the Chamber of Technology and Innovation at FEComércio. So they gave you the infrastructure and everything to do this event. So the hotel, and I think it was so important to do this big event. Carrilho comment about the social and connection change and cultural that KCWS brings to us. But I think he brings also a provocation. Everyone, when goes to KCWS, starts to think about the future. And in our event in 2019, I don't know if you remember, but Rodrigo and Carrilho, they did some provocations and talking about maybe a pandemic in the near future. And for us was so in a distance, like how can it happen? And then we started to discuss it months before. So I think KCWS brings this provocation, this inquietude, like what comes, how we need to be prepared, how to communicate, because the media was not talking about it. Yeah. So this provocation gave me some students that they start to change their thesis, their masters after the conference. So they said, no, I want to bring this idea to my thesis. I want to change my subject. So this is so important, how we can bring this change of mind. How can I say something like that? How can I express the vision of the world? I can make change for the researchers and the way to look to the future. So for me was a very good experience to do KCWS in Brazil. I think we learn a lot. Maybe in the future we can have again. My pleasure to be here and to have this opportunity to be part of it.
Thank you, Jamile. It's lovely to see you again, and to hear that about, you've just brought back Rodrigo's talk about the pandemic. I mean, we were skeptics. We were in blissful ignorance of what was ahead of us, and yet he talked so meaningfully about that and the whole provocation of it. Coming back to my theme today, I'm not sure it allowed us to prepare for it, but it certainly raised an understanding that we had this potential threat hanging over us. Wonderful. But Florianopolis were magnificent hosts. Thank you very much. And it's fascinating to hear of the impact we've had on students and everything. So thank you for that. Anna Christina, you're our gracious host, and I'm not going to be able, I've tried all day to try and pronounce it. I'll just call it UCS. I've been trying to pronounce it. So Anna, I mean, you haven't had long to reflect, but would you like to say a little bit? You of course, you did a wonderful presentation on Bento Gonçalves. I can't even say that, Bento Gonçalves. So you have a long experience too. So Anna, could you reflect on the legacy of the KCWS, please?
Well, I need to talk with a little emotion because it's our last day, and 2 weeks ago we were in Mexico, Professor Cynthia and I, to revisit the Monterrey Knowledge City project almost 15 years later. We were with Professor Carrillo, Professor America, Professor Blanca. It was a wonderful time. Well, we worked a lot there. We conducted several interviews with key players in the project's development. But we brought from there many materials that contain the record of the first moves made, including the general program of the first KCWS. And I started reviewing this material, and I saw many familiar names in it. Katie, you were there, Ginter, and so many dear friends. And so I realized that we've been together for 14 years in KCWS. And in addition to the honor and joy of having participated in the first session, I kept revisiting in my mind so many people, so many places, and so many experiences lived in each KCWS I attended. In that time in Caxias, we were a very small group, but each year someone else joined in, and those who participated in KCWS were the ones that remained. In Brazil, the network has expanded, and today we have strong ties with colleagues from Florianópolis. Jamile is here, and São Paulo, Tatiana, Deborah, and many actions result from this participation, in fact. And we could make a very consistent inventory of them. But thinking about the legacy of KCWS, I would say that it is in its immaterial dimension as a source of inspiration, but also of connection with the world. This week, we were connected with the world. KCWS promotes an important meeting of ideas, thoughts, and unique visions, which nurtures meaningful actions related to the themes that are dear to us, such as those we address at this event. And to finish, earlier in the week, I talked about generosity. I think it's a mark, it's a sign of KCWS, and gratitude. Now, at the end, I would like to come back to that. The generosity of our speakers, our curators, the WCI team, and especially our City Living Lab team, made another great KCWS happen. Thank you very much to all. I think this is the legacy, is the feeling, is the joy to be together, to think together about our world. The actions we will make are the main consequences of that. Thank you, Katie. You are mute.
I know. Anna, that was very, very powerful. Thank you so much. And I'm looking at the comments here, and the number of thanks and the appreciation of everyone is huge. But I'll come to that before we finish. But I think it's just, it is such an achievement for every KCWS that I've ever been to. I've gone away in a different plane, in a different way of thinking. And if we get provocation, we get stimulated, but we have this strong relational capital to talk in our own language. We keep that very, very strong bounds, and it is inspiring. And I have a great feeling of gratitude too, Anna, that I have been part of this long history. I wasn't able to come to some of it, but I just found the people, the relational capital, the inspiration, the provocation, all of that so stimulating. So wonderful, wonderful legacy. And it's quite thoughtful that it's over all that time. We're still all looking so young. It doesn't seem right, So it's good. So, but before we finish, I want to ask you all to just take a few moments. We have about 10 minutes or so, a few moments to just take that reflection and talk about where you see KCWS, the future. And I'll go back to Javier, if I may, for a starter, and then come back to you all. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Kathy. We just heard a poem by this young lady that was with Monica, and I think that's the challenge. The challenge is not just to leave or to make prominent the challenges of the Anthropocene and leave them on the hands of the younger generations and even those generations that are yet to be born. I think that we have a huge moral responsibility to make the most in every single minute of our lives, the all of the current existing generations, to try and contain the damage that we are still doing by the day to the living environment of our planet. And I believe that KCWS can, as much as it was aspiring to help cities evolve into knowledge spaces, knowledge in this concept of not just of the accumulation of content, of technical and scientific content, but above all in terms of the multiplication and capitalization of knowledge value, of collective values, so that in this regard the challenge continues to be the same, but now much more under pressure by the circumstances of the Anthropocene. I think KCWS is called to become an ecosystem for the consciousness and the action regarding the best of human knowledge applied to facing the challenges of the Anthropocene. And I feel privileged, and I'm looking forward to energize even further our collaboration in order to contribute in this line of international collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamile.
Thank you, Cass. I think for the future, what I can see and bringing using the past, like the experience that we had, we can be more, bring more government to have public policies, using our research, our changes with academic companies, third sector, and governments to have more public policies, thinking the Anthropocene, the future that we have for a better world.
Thank you. Anna.
Well, I think we have challenges about the future. I think we will have to reflect on content and form. With regard to content, it is clear that we are on the agenda of the most urgent issues, and we must continue. What we heard at this event made that very clear. And I would like to ask Suellen to share an image we produced today, because I think it is linked with the form. We are understanding the power of technology, and we are facing the challenge of thinking about how to have the best in technology, and also nurture our relational capital that was built on basis of face-to-face meetings. we will have a lot to think about. Swelling, if you can show the image just to say a last word. I don't know if it's possible. Maybe not. Yeah,
Yes,
here.
yeah.
So we can see, but we have a map behind the faces, and we are in the world. And the technology helped us to bring together all these people and all these ideas. But we have the face-to-face, so we have a lot to think. So thank you all. Thank you, Swelling.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Seeing that map. So we have come together. That is fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. And we are just about out of our time, but it would be wonderful to think that we create an ecosystem that continues, that relates, that works together to create a better world in the challenges that we've seen through this conference. But I've been looking through I hope everyone can see it, been looking through the comments, and everyone is so grateful. But we must say an amazing thank you to all the people who have worked at, and I'm sorry, UCS, to enable us to come together and have such an amazing, challenging, thought-provoking, informative, knowledge feast, a knowledge festival. It's been totally amazing, but we couldn't have done it without the help of Suellen and all the team, whom I don't know everyone's name, but they've all helped with my slides, everyone's slides, bringing us together, getting the technology right. And Anna, Jamelia, long thanks for Florianopolis. Anna, wonderful thanks for everything you've done for us this week. And the team, I really want to thank them so much. And Javier, it's all your fault. You're our guru, you're our touchstone. And it's been quite amazing. I don't know, Javier, I think it would be appropriate if you said the final words, if you feel that would be appropriate.
Thank you, dear Kathy. We learned this week that one of the main conclusions of COP26 is that, while undeniably there were some advances, it clearly exhibited the limits of that as a single major negotiation table for the future of mankind. So I think that what we learned is that it's going to be civil society, it's going to be independent organizations, it's going to be social activism and so forth. And I think that it should be us who should do our very best, not for other reason, that because it's absolutely a moral obligation to find the best way to engage with as many human consciousnesses as possible and with as much as effective human action, but not in ways that we know, but in the new ways. We were talking earlier this morning about imagination, and it's very much about reimagining, reinventing the way we live, the way we inhabit, the way we are humans in this world. And it is not the readings of the environmental data that sustain the hope, because those are actually getting worse by today and very rapidly. But it's the fact of being here with you, of being part of this community that is clearly showing its commitment, that sustains the hope that we still have a chance, and therefore we still have a moral obligation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Javier. We have reached the end of our time for this evening. I just want to reiterate thanks to everyone who's made this possible. And it is wonderful to share the virtual space with you all. Thank you all so much. And looking forward to working with you in the future. And I think a moral and, just cause that we can move forward. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, UCS.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Saudades.
So,
I'm going to have to learn Brazilian. It's no good, I've got a little bit of Spanish, but no Brazilian. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Till next year.